everyone, and thank you for joining us for episode 24 of the Survive and Thrive Challenge. I'm Laura Brandao, the president of AFR, and we are here to open our hearts and our minds as we share our personal and professional journeys as we adapt to our new world. On today's show, we have from St. Louis, Missouri, we have Jamie Modern. She is the SVP of Partnership and Strategy at DocuTech. And from Oregon, we have Matt Mahoney. He is a real estate broker at Homestar Brokers. And from Michigan, we have Bill Stevens. He is the Michigan branch manager at Paradise Mortgage Brokers. Okay, everyone, we are ready to jump right in. Jamie, take us back. We're going back to March. We're hearing that some things are happening out there. You're starting to hear some rumbles. And then as we come into the middle of March, shelter in place notices happening. So take us back. Tell us what that initial reaction was. What was happening professionally and personally in your world?
So my world was, I'll do a little personal and professional status at the time. The professional status is, and I guess a little personal. Just started a new job in December with DocuTech. 75% travel was expected.
Oh,
I had just come off of 6 weeks on the road. Realized I had forgotten how hard that was because I had not traveled like that in a while. And I had a few weeks home before I was going to get back on the road. And we were in the middle of getting acquired. So all really big things. And personally, we had 2 trips planned, building trips in between conferences, super excited about my husband and I. And our best friends had just left for their birthday trip, their 50th birthday trip to Thailand.
Oh.
And so when the pandemic hit, we became the people that supplied their house with all their food and toilet paper needs, so that when they came home and had to be forced into quarantine for 2 weeks, they knew what they were doing. They were well prepared. So we did that. I had also just purchased or decided to go forward with a brand new living room remodel. Really hard to do in the beginning of the pandemic when you can't leave. So I became great at online shopping, not that I wasn't pretty stellar already. So that was a little tough, took a lot longer than planned. And I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and then it was just a matter of realizing I was going to sit on my butt for the indefinite future. No travel.
Okay. All right. So let's break this down. Let's go through some of this. Okay. So let's start with the initial 75% travel, and now you cannot travel.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm the person who loves to travel. So that was a big win for me in this job. I was super excited about it. I loved the team. I still do. It's a great company, great team. And I'm super pumped about the job. But the job is for partnerships.
Yep.
Where do you meet your partners? Conferences. When do you get your warm handoff from people who know them to introduce them to you? Conferences. How do you build those relationships? In person, meetings, over dinner, happy hours, where? At conferences.
So what happened? So what did you do?
That was really hard. I think it definitely delayed the onboarding from my lens of just harder to get time. And then we were all so busy.
Yes.
With a lot of work that it became even harder to focus on, okay, wait, I still have 10 partners I've never met. How do I just keep tackling and chipping away at it while figuring out the chaos of our personal lives? I think that was one of the hardest in the initial days, is just trying to balance everything that was changing.
So let me also ask you, if you were doing all that travel previously, and actually I think last week's guest was in the same situation, and we've had this before. Usually then the spouses aren't used to being home as much.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're together 24/7.
Yep.
So what was that adjustment like?
So I am very blessed, as is my husband, that we actually like each other.
Oh, well, that's a bonus. That's good.
We've been together over a decade, and he has his own company, CEO of his own startup, and his startup was deemed essential, so he kept going to the office. He was the only person on the whole floor, mostly in the entire building, for 3 months. So he left during the day. I was in this during the day, and that part of our life seemed pretty normal. It was only the weekends where we weren't having tons of people in the house. There was no socialization. We weren't traveling for fun.
Right.
That was harder. But yeah, I'm pretty blessed. I actually like him. He cooks, does a lot of, loves to invest in our home. We're rebuilding a deck right outside my window right now. And I say I'm not doing a thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
He's a really, really great best friend. So it made life a lot easier. I know that not everybody has that luxury.
Yeah, well, I think everyone's learning about those relationships, right? Good or bad, everyone's learning about that now. Okay, so how did you adjust to now doing these Zoom meetings instead of having the connection in person? How did that go?
So first I rebelled for 2 months straight and didn't do my hair. Straight up, didn't do it.
Okay.
It's naturally curly. I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not getting on. I give up. And got into a really crappy routine of t-shirt, shorts, or t-shirt and jeans every day. I just stopped kind of worrying about this. And I realized over time that wasn't really as productive mentally as I needed to be. But that's getting into Thrive. So
but actually that was Survive, because that was what you were going through initially. And you obviously are not the only person that was in that mindset. I mean, and plus, I don't know, with you, but a lot of people thought, it's temporary. It's only going to be a short, a month, maybe 5 weeks, and then we'll be back and we'll be shaking hands and hugging and everything will be great. So I think it was almost like this mentality of, well, it'll be a short period of time. I'll wear my sweatpants and I won't have to worry about it and we're good.
It'll be over soon, right? This isn't forever. So I'm just going to rebel and be a little less structured than I normally would be.
Right.
For the next couple of months until the orders are lifted. But as that continued to go on, one of the things I realized is self-care is important, mental and physical. And so it makes me feel better to get up and get dressed and have a schedule, and I'm more productive. I literally just bought a stand-up desk that I'm standing at right now, which makes my life a lot easier.
Absolutely.
So that was definitely tough realization, to start to realize normal is gone and normal is going to be gone for a while. So we need to embrace
the new one,
figure it out. Yep.
Yeah, the new normal. Exactly. And, before we jumped on, you were speaking about something about this loss of time or structure.
Yes.
And I absolutely think that is something we've all experienced. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I have realized through this last 6 months that my memory that I thought was really good is very deeply rooted in context. So you think back to memories, you think back of where you were for this Christmas or this friend's birthday dinner, or when you were celebrating your parents' anniversary, or this travel and you had this great meal. Like, everything is in context. And for work, it's, you remember we had that board meeting, or you remember when we saw the client in California, and it's based on travel and where you were and what business review you were doing and what deal you just closed.
Yeah.
And all that's gone, because we're all staring at the same screen. We're living in the same four walls of our own home office. We're dealing with people through video, but it's so 2D that it doesn't give me any context. And probably about a month or 2 months ago, I had that epiphany of like, wow, no wonder I can't remember if that was June or May. Like, I'm struggling to remember what happened in each month, much less weeks. It's tough.
So is there a solution? I'm curious. Like, has anybody figured out a solution? I'm curious.
I have none.
Anybody have a solution to that? Because this is a real thing. It really is. And you're correct, because we normally form our memories based on, like you said, you went on vacation, you went out for this meal, you met this client, you went to a conference. So you're right. Or the birthday party, it all gets sandwiched around those events. So when it's the same thing over and over again, you kind of lose all sense of time, right?
And we're not celebrating any of those things like
I
we
know.
normally would.
Yeah.
We're not doing trips. Most
Right.
people are not doing trips yet. Most people are not throwing big parties at their house or hosting big affairs to celebrate milestones, whatever it might be. That's a hard realization, to lose that social connection and to try to find a way to still celebrate. So yeah, we're even losing the milestones by which we celebrate.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. All right, Matt.
Yes.
What was going on in your world, professionally and personally?
Yeah. Well, if you tuned in last week, you learned that my wife and I have 6 kids.
Oh, God bless you.
It's a lot. And we found out the night before we were supposed to go for 2 weeks to Disney World that they closed. And so we had already planned to be away from work for those 2 weeks. So work wasn't necessarily an issue right away, but now we have 6 kids that wanted to be somewhere else and were shut down. And so we kind of hunkered down as a family, did a lot of things together. My son and oldest daughter decided they were going to build a roller coaster in our backyard, which is crazy.
I actually want to hear about that. We didn't hear about that last week. So what did they do? Tell me about the roller coaster.
So my daughter is good at coming up with ideas, not so good at following through. So she came up with this idea. She saw it on YouTube and showed it to my son, who is 16, and he thought it was great. And so they were going to build the Corona coaster, and so they're telling me about it and talking about how PVC pipes, and I'm thinking, there is no way someone can ride on this thing when it's made of PVC pipes. So in my head, I'm imagining the structure itself is built out of PVC pipes. That's just the rails. So it was mostly my son building it. He really got into the engineering of it and dove right into design. His budgeting is terrible. He was thinking it was going to be about $150 to build it, and it was a lot more than that. And also used a lot of my spare lumber around the house that he just figured I would donate. Learned how to bend PVC, which was fascinating. We heated up, like the turkey trays that you put in the oven. We filled it with sand, threw duct tape on these sections of PVC, and he had put screws into a board as a template to set the PVC in to form it. And so you put duct tape on the bottom of it, fill it with 400-degree sand, seal duct tape on top, and start shaking it. And it becomes a noodle in about 10 seconds. And then you set it within the form, let it sit there for a second, take the duct tape off the end, dump out the sand, and it hardens in a couple minutes, and you're done. So that was the part that I helped him the most with, and also making sure that he tested it many times before a live person rode on it. But it was a lot of fun watching him do the project, and my daughter did help some.
It just sounds to me like your daughter's going to be the executive. She's going to come up with the plan, and then she's going to have her team she will delegate, and she will find the right team members.
She's good at that.
Right, there you go.
She is really good at that.
That's it.
She loves to delegate to the younger kids. So yeah, we hunkered down. We just spent time with each other.
So did the roller coaster work?
Yeah. It was about, 40 or 50 feet long.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And or it was, we made him take it down because, I mean, it took up our entire backyard, and the weeds growing around it were, you know, hip height, and it was an eyesore. So it's down now, but yeah, it worked. We only allowed kids up to about 90 pounds to ride on it. Just, I'm sure it could have taken more, but I also didn't want anyone getting hurt.
Oh my goodness, that is fat. But Matt, okay, and I know we're on the survive part, we're not on the thrive part. But if you honestly ask me, that's part of thrive, because honestly, the memories that you just had with your family, they will tell that story for generations. Like literally, when they have kids, they will be like, do you know what we did during a pandemic of 2020? And honestly, they will share those stories with their children and beyond. So I know we're on the survive part, but honestly, that is very special. So good for you. All right. So then tell me, I've never had a realtor on the show. So I really want to understand, how has it been being a realtor during all of this?
Yeah, crazy. First, we just had to make sure that all our transactions closed. Both Claire and I were in a bit of a panic as we waited to hear what our governor was going to do. And she tends to lean towards Gavin Newsom, you know, like in California. So kind of extreme. And we saw Pennsylvania shut down real estate transactions, and
they completely, no building, no nothing.
I mean, I had 7 or 8 closings. I actually had about 10 or 11 scheduled over the next 3 or 4 weeks, and I mean, these people weren't going to have homes, and what do we do with that? And fortunately, they didn't shut that down. So once we found that out, then it was like, okay, now we got to figure out how to work during this time. And and it was definitely different, for sure. Showings changed dramatically. No open houses. Did some video tours. I'd already done that for out-of-state buyers before, so it wasn't new for me, but doing that more often, all of the time. Showings slowed down considerably for about 3 weeks, while everybody was kind of just figuring what was going on, especially with lending. I mean, rates were jumping from 3 to 4.5 overnight, and no one knew which way was up. And so when you're working with a buyer and they're pre-approved at one price, and the next day that price just dropped $50,000, it gets a little crazy. And you know, fortunately, I get to work with my wife, and so I have the finger on the pulse a little bit more of the financing side than most realtors, and so I could navigate my clients through it a little bit, letting them know that it's like the stock market, like it moves every day. So if it's really low today, it may not be tomorrow. Lock when you can. You know, don't hold out for sub 3 rates. They're not coming anytime soon. And I mean, they did get there, but
I was going to say,
months later. And I did tell them, I mean, there's no way that you're raising interest rates as a country during a recession. It just doesn't happen. And so overall rates would plateau or at least lower a little bit. But during the chaos, I mean, just listening to Barry Habib and his calls, and it's like, you know, the bond market's showing this, but it's not affecting rates the way everybody expects it to. And so it was a little tricky dealing with that. And just as the market quickly dried up of inventory, that was the biggest thing. It wasn't so much that my buyers weren't wanting to be active. I mean, there was that pause of like, okay, we're going to give it 2-3 weeks. Let's shelter in place. And then they were all ready to go. People weren't selling. I mean, I had one deal coming together, buyer, they were buying and selling, got their offer accepted, ready to throw theirs on the market. And they called me and said, yeah, we're kind of in that risk group, so we're going to hold off. You know, it was just their house would have sold in a week and it would have been great. But we had a lot of that, and our inventory in Oregon, at least, is really, really low where we are in the valley. We're south of Portland by about 45 minutes in. So it's pretty crazy, right?
Is it still that way? It's that way right now. Yeah, very low inventory. Yeah. No, it definitely seems like there's plenty of buyers. It's just all across the country. It just seems like there's just no inventory out there. Yeah. Well, I guess the good news is at least building is, happening. People definitely are looking to build new homes, which is great. Biggest struggle with that is lumber. There seems to be a shortage of supplies. There's a shortage of workers, for it. But I mean, listen, I think we can all agree it could have been much worse, right? Because we didn't know. Those first couple of weeks, we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if lending was going to stop. We didn't know if everybody was going to be like, buy a house. What are you, crazy? I don't want anything to do. So luckily it didn't turn out that way. So that's great. And then what about when people would come to look at homes, like were there certain protocol and things like that if they did want to physically go?
Yeah, so we had to fill out a form, basically, haven't been around anyone that's been diagnosed with it, haven't been to a hotspot, not feeling sick, not running a fever, things like that. Now we've got a mask mandate, so things have changed over time. But yeah, it was just, be respectful of each other's space and, let me touch everything. You don't open door, touch things. Which is hard to do because they're looking at a house they want to buy and move into. And then also on the listing side, because I do help listing and or sellers and buyers, and just helping sellers feel comfortable and safe, and putting out booties for them and hand sanitizer and gloves, and especially for those sellers that do have higher risk or in higher risk categories.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it was really interesting. One week we had a girl on that bought a home during this. She actually is an operations manager, Brittany, and she actually bought a home. And she told the story that it was like the smoothest transaction out of any home she ever. She said, "Oh, I much prefer to buy during a pandemic. It was wonderful." And I was like, okay, that's interesting. But she was saying that it just was so much more organized. Everything was very because you have to take certain steps and you have to be very mindful. So she thought it was very organized. All right, awesome. All right, Bill, I know you had a lot going on during this time. So I don't know the story, so I'm hearing it for the first time also. So please tell us, what was happening in your world?
Well, thank you so very much, Laura, for having me. It was really a pleasure to be here. So I just want to, as we all recall, before March happened, there was all this optimism in our industry. We were all looking at the yields going into record territory, and wow, the rates are so very low. And then March, I mean, heck, we were even seeing on social media people posting their broom standing up. It was like all this, like, hey, we're all having fun. And then there was this out there, that story out there about Corona. For me, I personally opened my eyes when I saw the reports coming out of Italy. And that's where I personally said, wow. And you know what? It seemed like I was one of the first in my group to take it that seriously, because I was just kind of in tune to it with the media. So what we actually went, we're one of the hot spots, as you might have heard, Michigan. And so we went down on a pretty strict lockdown. Our governor, one of the strictest in the countries, I believe. And so when that happened in March, we had a full pipeline, mainly of pre-approvals. I was purchase focused, but as Matt was saying, then all of a sudden, boy, the middle of March, when this started happening, those pre-approvals, some of them came into fruition since, but for those couple months, I mean, we're 5 months back now, as you recall. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context about how far we've come, and and we were all hoping it would be temporary, but kind of right in the middle of the lockdown, where we don't know about our groceries. We got wiped down our cereal boxes. My wife and I had a pretty substantial flood, backup, if you will. And so here in our home, we were actually one of the most careful people, with the whole pandemic and, the sanitizer and everything. But all of a sudden you're like, hey, our home just got, inundated with some nasty stuff, right? And so we go, what do? We had to leave. We had to leave. Yeah. So this was in the height of the lockdown, and 75% of the hotels that we tried were closed.
Oh.
So we had to we had to go from one end of the spectrum of being kind of hyper vigilant people to being like, hey, we have no choice. We're out in this. So we wound up being out for about a month, 34 days in a hotel, and we wound up not going back because it was such a bad exposure to it was sewage. So we moved to a new home, and that was interesting. So professionally and business wise, it was challenging.
Wow. And, I mean, I can't even imagine, Bill, that just what you said. I'm kind of picturing you're like, okay, we're going to be careful. We're going to make sure that we're taking all the proper precautions, right? And you've got that all covered we now need to go live in a hotel.
Exactly.
So that is literally one spectrum, like you said, to the other. So when you're going into this hotel, I have to anticipate that you're kind of like, I'm getting anxiety here. I'm not very comfortable. I don't feel safe. I have to really think about this. And then I'm imagining you probably had a huge pipeline that you were also trying to work through during living in a hotel.
Well,
so
absolutely.
What was that like?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, a lot of them were purchases, and then we saw, the pricing change. So even I'm always in the belief when it comes down to rate locks, if people are refinancing to, if you like the rate, lock it in, and, it's going to be a good rate. And, if it changes incrementally, don't beat yourself up for it. But if you like the rate lock, but, back then I actually had a lot of people that I had pushback, and they're like, no, I want to float. I want to float it. I want to float it, And so, gosh, what was it that one week, March 7th or something?
Yes.
It was that Friday where it was going to be the lowest. And then by that Tuesday, they were like they had jumped up. And so I was like, oh my gosh, all these, not only the purchases are gone, but, a big portion of the pipeline of refinances is very challenging, to say the least, at this time. The flood actually affected my home office. So, I had computers that went down. And so I had to really kind of, I actually had to refer some business out for a little while but this is how, I know we're not going to get to the Thrive part yet.
Yeah, don't jump too far, but tell us you're definitely in Survive.
I had some plans we had in motion that to make a move. And but those got delayed substantially because apparently the state of Michigan has other priorities than approving new licenses for companies. So, but you know what? What's the old saying? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So definitely, it was a learning experience. And we'll stop it there because that was the Survive part. But
so, Bill, were you working in the hotel? Like, were you living and working?
Yeah, I was trying to work off my, but it's so challenging because I have, I had my double monitor set up, and now I had to go to work from my laptop, and so that was quite stressful time.
All right. Okay. I can't wait to hear how we've made it through that.
That's the cliffhanger. Right. That's the cliffhanger.
We're
in the hotel
right there. You're literally
in
the hotel working off a laptop. Okay. We'll leave
next season. Wait until next season.
All right, Jamie. Now
yes,
we're fast forwarding. We made it through all this adjustment period. Here we are. We're at the end of August already. Oh my goodness, can't believe it. About to go into the final quarter of the year already.
Yep.
So the biggest question I have for all of you, we've all made adjustments. We've all learned lessons. We've all had all this change. The biggest thing I want to know is if the magic wand came out today and took us back to a year ago. Let's even forget about 2020. We're back a year ago in 19. We go back. What lessons did you learn during this time that you actually wouldn't change? All right, so Jamie, tell us about how you're thriving and what lessons.
So thriving, I found goodness in Zoom. So that was important. I think
no more struggle. No more struggle with it.
Not just that there's no more struggle, but good, a positive connection to it, because, and it's become a verb, right? Whether you're on WebEx or Teams or GoToMeeting or what, FaceTime or whatever, we all call it Zoom. I've got a Zoom to go do. Really leveraging Zoom for positive, not just work, but we started doing virtual wine tastings with a local wine shop. And all of our dear friends would join. So we're on Zoom, but it's on a Friday night. You get bottles of wine. You would just drive to the wine shop, pick up your wine. They put it in your trunk, super safe. You come home. They tell you, the owner would give you the normal class, but everybody's on Zoom. We started making bingo cards to figure out what would he say about the wine. We created our own positive way through it. My husband even, he has a group of guy friends. They used to do a trip every year, a guys' dinner once a month, and all of that's gone. So they have a Zoom every Wednesday, and every Wednesday they used to just be hanging out, and now they actually create trivia for one another to learn more. And they've just trying to find ways to make people that are far away feel closer. And we've had FaceTime for how long?
Yeah.
Never has it been used in this forum been used as we're using it now. And I think that that's one of the most positive things for me, is to look at it and not just think about it as a work tool that you have to do, but something that you get to do. You get to talk to people and you get to see your family that aren't close. And it doesn't have to be super formal. You can just shoot them a link on your phone and be like, hey, you got time to Zoom in 10 minutes and let's chat. Or just those types of things I think has been really important. One of my other things, and I said I had a little cheat sheet of topics over here. So one of my other things is just do things that bring you joy, and it's okay to not be okay. Like, I do feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to kind of have our stuff together all the time. When you think about, we're all in this, we talked about it earlier before this started, about we're all in this boat or ocean together. We expect, okay, well, if I'm good, you've got to be good, right? Well, if you're good, I guess I need to be okay. And that's not reality. So, it's okay to realize that sometimes you just need to not talk to anybody for a day, because we do this all day long.
Yep. Sometimes
you just need to stay at home and not go out and talk to neighbors, not talk to you need to withdraw too. Both are okay. So I think that's been good for me to realize that. And then, we also started, you're going to hear a theme, happy hour. We have a weekly.
All right, we've got wine tasting. We've got, all right, okay.
We also have no kids. So we have a small group of our neighbors, and we've all been together through this. We help each other out with yard projects and big projects. And we had a baby born in the neighborhood across the street during pandemic every Thursday evening. I can actually saw a few of them a few minutes ago. They're starting together for a Thursday evening happy hour just to catch up. And I think that's been really nice too, from a Thrive perspective. When you're working as much as we are, it'll be there tomorrow. Like, give yourself a break, shut the computer, walk away. There are bigger things to worry about. And I think the pandemic has really made me remember that.
I'll say something that I learned from one of our guests that was a cancer survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And she told the story that one of her chemotherapy nurses said to her, don't ever allow cancer to be in vain. Mm-hmm. Remember this moment and learn from it.
Absolutely.
And whenever I hear these stories, I think of that. Mm-hmm. Because some of the things that you just said, the question is, if the magic wand came out, would we just go right back to what we did before all of this, or would some of it remain? I don't think all of it can remain, but would some of it?
I
remain?
think it would. For us, I think it's a matter of truly spending time with the people and doing the things that bring you joy, no matter if it's virtual or in person. Just really making time it's something that I think has been reinforced. And we get busy with life. A year and a half ago, sometimes you'd be like, oh, I missed a person's birthday. Oh, sorry, I'll send him a text. Or I feel like we got really casual about those sometimes are the people that really mean a lot to us. And so this has forced us to think a little bit deeper about that.
I love it. Love it, Jamie. Awesome. Happy to hear it. All right, Matt, tell us how you're thriving. What have you learned? What would you keep doing, even if we went back?
Yeah, so family-wise, just getting to spend more time together. We've started watching like a full movie series. We watched all the Star Wars, and we're almost done with the Harry Potters. And we have kids from 5 to 16. So a big span. So we have to pick things that they all can enjoy and like. And so that's been fun. And so it's just doing things like that with family, making that a priority to do that regularly. As far as work goes, had the opportunity to get plugged in with Vetted VA and go through the vetting process. And I'm one of a few realtors in that group, but just getting to lean in and learn more about VA guidelines and the VA loan process, and be able to help serve people that served us. And so being able to give back in that way has been a real blessing, and I'll continue to do that. Just taking
I was going to say, how about personally, like you? Like, I know the family and I know the work, but what about you? Like, I'm curious if you, like, personally learned something.
Well, I've learned that I'm not as young as I used to be. And when I'm working from home, I'm a little ADD, so I like to do projects. And some of the projects I probably shouldn't have done myself because I ended up hurting myself. So that is a positive. I've learned that, but much better.
Well, at least you've recognized it. You've recognized it. But that's right.
So, and my wife appreciates that I'm coming to that place. It's still going to be hard for me to let go of doing things because I'm a busy person, but letting go of some of that, and that is definitely something I've learned. That's a positive.
That is a positive. Yeah. And that's why you guys work so hard. You and Claire are both two successful people. And so you should hire experts that can help with that so that you guys can enjoy that. That's why you work so hard. So that's a good thing.
I think just personally being able to spend more time with family has just been, that's the most important thing to me. And being able to be home with the kids, as maddening as the whole school situation was, and just not knowing what was going to happen the next day, rescheduling Disney World 3 times, just that kind of stuff, being able to be with family and create those memories like you talked about with the Chrono Coaster. that's the stuff going forward that we're always going to remember, and makes me want to continue doing that going forward.
Absolutely. And listen, you said it, you have kids ranging from 5 to 16. And we all know 16 is very close to, changes coming, whether it's going to college or whatever is in store. And it just, we all know it goes so fast. So that those moments that you just captured, and you're continuing, even watching Star Wars or Harry Potter, that's the kind of stuff kids remember. Take it from me. My kids are in their 20s, and those are the things that they absolutely will always remember. So I love that.
And I think that also, one thing that we have with our kids is that they're not stuck in a home by themselves.
Right.
The only child out there I feel terrible for Especially if both parents are working. I don't know
Yeah.
how they're surviving. And that's the horrible thing about the schools being closed. But we feel blessed that our kids are able to interact with each other, and
Exactly.
they love each other. And ultimately, we believe that and we tell our kids this, if you can't be friends with each other, you can't have friends. And this is a great opportunity for them to grow in their relationship. And we have seen that happen. Just the other night, our 14-year-old daughter had our 5-year-old daughter have a slumber party in her room.
Aw.
And that was their idea, and we facilitated it. But I mean, that was, our 5-year-old has been talking about it for the last 4 days, just thinking it was the coolest thing ever. And those kind of things are what are important in life. And all the business stuff allows us to do those things. But
That's right.
coming back to that is really what we've learned the most in thriving.
I love that. And you are thriving in every aspect of that. 100%. Awesome. Love to hear it. All right, Bill, you left us on a cliffhanger. All right, we're in
Yes,
the
I did.
hotel. We're
This is
working off the laptop. I
is-
have to, please tell us. We want to hear the thriving part.
Oh, well, this is the
wanna
new
know.
season, so we have to kind of recap of where we are.
Okay.
So we're back in the hotel, and we're trying to work out mine. But then on a personal level, my mom is in an independent living facility.
Oh.
And again, I don't know the difference in the States, but they lock that down hard, and I could not visit her. And I was used to going to see her every other day at least, personally. So that was a challenge. I remember scrambling to figure out, how are we going to teach her to do Zoom and all of that? How are we actually going to see her? And I have quite a large family. I have 3 brothers and a sister, and we're all trying to figure out how are we going to go see mom. So I went out and bought this device called Facebook. It's a Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it's called, portal. Okay,
The portal. Yeah, Facebook portal.
And so we taught her that. And so I was luckily able to get her onto that. I'm in the hotel trying to figure out the business, but then I realized, and you know what, I think this is what it comes down to is perspective. I realized, I'm going through all of this, but gosh, there's like 30% people that cannot work at all. So, I'm so much more blessed that I'm more fortunate than them at this moment. And so I think once you have this attitude of gratitude, then, then all the worry and doubt, you can put that aside. So what we did to get to the thriving part is that I was planning on moving to Paradise Mortgage Brokers with Michelle Vaughn, and we're here now and in Michigan. And like I said, Michigan, that kind of delayed our plans because, it should have normally take like a 2-week process for a license to get approved by a state, but it was very much delayed. So I had, I don't have my office set up. I don't have all my plans are kind of delayed. We have the market going crazy one way or another, in good way, one way, and then, other guidelines and everything changing. So, it was kind of a day by day thing at that time. But, that's what really, I think that's the key to thriving is really knowing how fortunate we really are in this industry, in this country for that matter. I mean, for the rest of the world and what they're dealing with. And so I'm so happy now for the thriving part. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve people, get back again. We're finally open now. Matt was saying the challenges of showing homes for a while. Our real estate agents weren't allowed to do practically anything.
Oh.
I mean, so unless it was completely virtual. Again, all the states had different guidelines, essential workers this and essential workers that, but we actually wound up moving. So I'm going to have a new home office, and you know what? I like it even better. So that's the thriving part, and we're just getting the word out. Now, to answer your main question, what the magic wand? What would I change?
What did you learn?
What did I learn? I learned that people like yourself are so accessible. And that with the opportunity where before all this, and what, as in the mortgage industry, our biggest threat a couple of years ago turned out to be our kind of biggest blessing now, because we were all concerned about the technology and fine tech. How do we do this? How do we do what we need to do without actually meeting the customer, in person? Because the big The big companies already figured that out, right?
Right.
It's only what we were talking about, Laura, the other day is it's only been like what 3 or 4 years ago where we needed wet signatures,
Right.
on things. But so we're so fortunate that kind of coincided, the advancement in those technologies coincided as well. So I think that's the lessons that I've learned is just be grateful and try to serve people. And you know what, man, I'm glad that you brought up vetted VA because I think realtors like yourself, if you can get the perception, that will be huge because that's the biggest challenge that some of these veterans have is that the offers don't get accepted. So
Right.
if you can change that mindset, that's going to be a great way to serve, the people that served our country.
That's a very good point. Very good point. And Bill, you said a few really big things. Perspective. I mean, all of us are blessed. I mean, honestly, no matter what, we were saying that. I mean, that we even spoke about survivor guilt. We spoke about survivor guilt, that sometimes we feel uncomfortable speaking to other people that are going through furloughs or loss of income or completely don't have a job. I mean, there's so many negative things happening out there. So for our perspective of us being so busy and us being able to keep up with that, we are truly blessed. And I appreciate that you mentioned that. And of course, being grateful for having all of those blessings. That's so vital to it. And listen, you guys even used serve. Every day we get to serve and make changes in people's lives forever. I mean, that is such a blessing to us to be able to do that.
Well, I think that you have to take a positive, when you're experiencing a negative emotion, you need to replace it with a positive emotion, right? And so I remember I went through 2000 here in Michigan. It was more like 2006. 2008 it really happened in 2006. For a while, we were a single state recession back then. So I had those feelings almost like a flashback of like, oh my gosh, here we go again, but then you realize, like you said, we're dealing with it and we're so fortunate. Yeah. I mean, people even said, hey, you're so lucky you get to work from home already. I mean, well, we were prepared for this. That was awesome. So, part of the thriving part, what else did I learn? I learned the accessibility to leaders like yourself. I'm not very comfortable on camera. I just decided I need to do this now. I was more of an in-person person, on the phone's fine, but I'm like, really, I don't want to be looked at on the camera. But, but you know what?
You did great, Bill. You did great.
Thank you. But you know what? And it's just such a great opportunity because now when you think about you can have this quality interaction without getting in a long plane ride or a car or doing traffic or scheduling. And it's such an opportunity. And this is the part that I won't, ever give back. I'll be like, hey, yeah, I'll hop on a camera. I'm not going to be so, concerned and worried and nervous about it. But you know what? I wanted to get a shout out to AIM. They have been giving us all such great resources to help us navigate this, this system because of what's happening. I mean, so they have daily coaching, they have all these great sources, and then AIM Fuse is going to be this like cutting edge digital experience that I don't think that we, any of us ever experienced. So Team AIM, definitely.
I definitely agree that when the craziness started, in March, right after AIM Activate, actually, right after we got back from that, I can remember when all this was happening, I was on a call at 8:30 at night with the leaders of wholesale, all the different leaders, literally saying, what are you doing? How about you? What are you doing? And literally, I mean, my heart is about to pop out of my chest, as I'm like having, a panic attack of everything that's going on. And after having that call, I was like, oh, I'm not the only one. They feel the same way I do. We're all in this together. And that was the start of it. So I agree with you, Bill. It's been wonderful to have the collaboration. It's been wonderful to have the leadership to be able to guide us through these choppy waters of the storm, right? So it's been wonderful. And you guys have been awesome. I absolutely love these stories. And that's why I love doing this every week, because no matter how many weeks I do it, everybody has a unique story. There is nobody that duplicates the same, it's always a unique story. So thank you so much. And now I get to hear who's joining me next week. Okay, Jamie, who do we have?
Yes, next week will be Susan Wallace, and she is in the correspondent lending division of Wells.
Wonderful. I can't wait. Sounds awesome. Thank you.
She's amazing. You guys will love her.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear her story. All right, Matt, who do we have?
Nathan Nottingham with Vetted VA.
I know Nathan. Looking forward to it. Wonderful. Awesome. Can't wait to hear his story. All right, Bill, who do we have? Uh-oh, I lost
Jimmy Hobson.
Oh. Jimmy, awesome.
Yeah.
Looking
I think a lot of us know
forward to it.
Jimmy. So I was like, hey, yeah, Jimmy definitely would like to hop on and have a great conversation with you, Laura.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and be well and keep thriving.
Thank
Take
you, guys.
care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.